So
Okay.
you were saying that you two are going to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
we're going
That's
to do a
great.
dry run. Is this
Yeah.
Eduardo? I've got it right, correct? It's Friday at 1. Is that how, well, for you, it might be a different time. It's
Yeah. Friday too, to me.
you're for 2 for you, so it would
2
be for
p.m. Yeah.
Gary the 10.
Oh, this
If you
this
want to,
oh, really? This Friday. Oh, let me
yes, if you want to come, Gary, we would love to have you there. We have no idea how many will show up. The community is an international community. It'll be very much like the session you and I did, Gary,
mm,
where you just don't know. I don't think it's going to be, I forget how many you had in your session. It was big. This will be a small session. And because it's just the prep festival. But I did put out, I don't know if you saw it, Eduardo, I put an email newsletter out today with an invitation link to everybody.
Yeah. I noticed
so
that.
So,
Friday,
um,
June 14th. That'd be 10 o'clock
mhm.
Pacific.
Yes, I'll send you, if you're interested in coming, I will send you a
Yeah,
follow-up, the email and
I
the
think
link.
one of the things I am is always willing interested in these new sort of prep, prep,
Yeah.
prep things, whatever, kind of like see where I can get involved and help out, particularly if you two guys are going to continue going in the fall.
Yeah.
I like to be there with you. What I will do is
You,
I will have to move one meeting I got at 10 to 11. It's another Zoom meeting, which should be okay. I think you guys have I told you I've been doing this uncertainty show. So the one I've got is I'm doing a prep with the person I'm going to do it, and the topic is going to be that.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah, because
When
so
is
that
that,
that,
Gary?
that will be on Friday, June 21st at 8 a.m. Pacific, so 11 a.m. your time,
Okay.
Eastern. So what I'm going to introduce, I've been slowly introducing, is this whole idea of evolution, which looks like this. So I'll explain how we have been going through these S curves, and you've probably
Love
seen
it.
it. Eduardo, I don't know if this is new stuff to you or not, but I've been doing this for a few years.
It's new to me,
Okay,
Gary, these S curve things, although I have had a general sense of it and I just haven't been
yeah,
able to get my
right.
like brain
Yeah.
wrapped
This
around it.
evolution, yeah. To me, this evolution is not new, but this representation is pretty
Okay,
new.
that's
I love
good.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it's good to have you guys here, because it's new to you guys. It's not to me. So I can't just like gloss over it. And Trish probably hasn't seen it. Her name is Trish Ross, and she probably hasn't seen this. So I need to kind of go through that with her and then June 14th, that's our prep meeting for our show on the 21st. So I want to go through this. I want to then say, okay, in terms of people, this is how safety has evolved. So you can see how people are being treated. First of all, we were treated as cogs in a machine. Then we were looked upon, well, they're not cogs. So really, people are just hazards that we have to just constrain them with process and technology.
Mm.
Then it's got into this age of safety management. We're talking about, well, wait a minute. There are times when rules don't always work. There's dilemmas. So we need to look at people as being heroes because they can adjust to varying conditions. And that's where this whole thing, Eduardo, which you raised, what is resilience? This is what resilience is. So if you want to
Yeah.
talk about robustness is we can constrain people and they can happily
Yeah.
do work with safely. But there are times when you have to take risk and resilience comes in. Well, that's where we have to adjust to varying conditions. What we want to talk about is really humans as storytellers. And that's the next higher level which we think we're going to go. So I'm going to present this because I really want to answer or get Trish to say, when you talk about, you're seeing some companies go backwards in safety. What do you mean by that? And her comments, which really struck me on the show that she came on before that, was her experience working with some companies, some of the managers are saying, if you don't like it, leave, get out of here. We don't need you. So
Yeah.
if you have
Yeah.
that sort of response, where do you put the culture of that company? And it's probably more like cogs in a machine, so they're falling backwards.
Mhm.
So we want to have that conversation around that, because the sort of hypothesis I've got is that at any point in time, based on context, you can find an organization, a company, whatever, somewhere along that curve. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then we can also say too that some cases, because we did a session last month, and let's see, we did that one. We also did a session too, and last month, that was a topic. Are you a recipe follower or a chef? So
Right.
we did a cooking theme, and you may not have heard of that thing about, do you follow recipes to the T, or are you a chef that can improvise and create if an ingredient is missing? So I'm trying to move everything over on a month-by-month basis in this series to see if we can help companies make sense of where they are in safety. So
Get it.
that's kind of what I'm doing, and that's where I kind of fill in resilience, because
Mhm.
the other thing which I showed too is that this is where resilience comes in as well. So under
Good.
order, which we all like, stable, predictable, repeatable, we like that. That's that area where we, like we have constraints in place, rules that we have to follow, so nobody gets hurt. But then there are times, like you said, Eduardo, that it's uncertain, it's unpredictable. Well, that's where resilience comes in. And you see, we associate resilience with complex system, and we associate robustness with the order system.
That screen right there is, I would love to, I was just trying to capture it. I don't know why my print screen didn't work, but that right there, I think would be helpful even to us, just for background information. My thinking about our session is, we don't want to get into an academic presentation of the Cynefin framework, but we want to know in the back of our minds how to talk about the differing scenarios, whether it's with a cat, which is our opening scenario, our opening exercise, or a flood event, which is our, bringing together volunteers in a major flood event. How do you help those volunteer groups move forward in terms of next steps? And the idea would be that some situations that are discussed if you're a facilitator, because this is a international facilitators group.
Right.
So if they're using the skill of the Cynefin framework, they're thinking about, what aspects of the issues brought forward are going to fall into a more stable, predictable scenario that is known, versus one that's unknown,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and how that facilitator might respond to that, being able to discern and what has to happen next is a little bit different. Or how they might
right.
help the group.
And I don't even introduce Cynefin, Nancy. I
Yeah.
just use this.
I know you don't. That's why I'm very impressed with the first time I saw you do a presentation. I was impressed by that fact. You did not even use the words, because I couldn't pronounce it. And that actually happened already in our group. They were trying to pronounce it. I didn't correct them.
Oh, okay.
Because I just kind of took the lead from you. I just, it's not important, actually, right?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, most
We'll
people
use
get
it.
most people get that very simple 3 basic systems, and you can use it quite nicely. And as facilitators, if I can, I will always start here as opposed to going to Cynefin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Eduardo, how do you feel about that? Have you seen this one before? I'm not sure if you've
That's
seen
great.
it.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But it's it's new to me, but it's great. I have seen another representation putting all the other domains together,
Yeah.
right? Like this one, but not this one itself. I think it's good, pretty good.
Yeah.
I do too. I like it.
Yeah. There are other interesting variations because you watch, the evolution of complexity thinking is you can talk about Ralph Stacey's model. And so
Yeah,
Stacy and Snowden knew each other quite well, and even Stacy's model was he kind of like figured, oh my God, I didn't think this one through properly because in his Stacy's model, he's got chaos kind of like way out there on the top right, where he realized that when Dave's in Nevin or this model here, everything is connected and you can go and move around in each one, where in Stacy's model, you
yeah,
end up at the far right, but then where do you go after chaos? So it wasn't as complete as this, which has emerged from Dave's discussions with other people.
yeah. It's interesting because I have known some people who have been studying complexity for a while and don't know Kinevin.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair enough. And
And
that's why
yeah,
it's
and I think there are many different theories emerging since the 70s probably.
mhm.
Uh, and they're not consolidated yet, right? And I think this is an emergent field yet.
Yeah, and honestly, I like what Dave says. He doesn't ever want to see convergence in this space. He'd rather
Yeah,
see the diversity and people thinking differently. Because
yeah,
if we converge and we say, oh, this is the only model, oh my God, then you know what we've done? We've moved into the
yeah,
owner system and created a best practice.
yeah,
Now we got to
yeah, yeah,
defend
yeah,
it. We got, oh no, this is the only right model. And then we get into that sort of argument, which we don't
yeah.
want to
It will be
do.
a contradiction itself. Yeah,
It is, yeah. So let's just stay open-minded. And if somebody comes up with a new one, it's like, okay, I'll
yeah,
test against
yeah.
it.
Agree,
And sure.
agree,
Yeah,
agree.
and it's the same thing with this one. If people want to contest this is my mash.
Yeah,
It's a mashup because I've taken
yeah,
stuff that
yeah,
Eric Hollnagel
yeah,
has done. I've taken stuff where S curves have been developed. Dave has done this as well. And if people want to come
yeah,
out and they want to argue about it or talk about it, that's to me, that's great.
yeah, yeah. And what is amazing, when I see this, I can see the same company presenting different moments in this graphic.
Mhm.
I can see the same, for example, I have a client and they work for public sector and for private sector. And public sector is much more like cogs in a machine because it's based on strict rules. Otherwise, uh, uh, private sector is much more open to innovation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they can apply other rules. But inside the same company, these mindsets get into conflict, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, so in last month's show, we talked a bit about it's okay to be a recipe follower if the context calls for it. And the example that we
Yeah,
walked through was when COVID hit us, how did your company organization go through, COVID? Well, first thing is that we didn't know what it was. So some experts in the ordered system had to come in and give us some rules. Wear masks, observe distances, put your PPE on. These are all sort of constraints because we don't want people to get sick with COVID. So we have to look
yeah,
at hazards to be constrained. And that's okay. If you want to call that falling back, that's fine. But it made sense for that time. until we figured out what the heck is COVID, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as you start learning more, and a lot of that learning, and even the development of the COVID vaccines, that all took place over here in the complex. And
Yeah.
they were experimenting. Will this work? Will that work? Had to do
Yeah.
how runs. We're all sitting here in order, going like, well, we'll
Yeah.
just wait until we find out. And then soon as like, okay, now we got a vaccine, we can do that. Then we can start moving into, like relaxing some of the rules. But we went through what, 6 or 7 waves of this stuff? So we were kind of like going back, like, okay, we can release. Oh no, now we're gonna put the rules back in place. So we were
Yeah.
actually trying to adjust to varying conditions.
Yeah.
So we were really just in a bit of a dynamic flow between the order and the complex system. And in this model here, let me just bring this one up. That's okay, because you can see we just go from complex to order with no problem, where other models like Stacy's model couldn't do it. And we're going between complex and order because we're trying to avoid falling into chaos.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can
Yeah. I think
explain
that's
it
an
easier.
amazing example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all that we're saying is that in this age of cognitive complexity, and as facilitators, we need to maybe think about that, is that we got to go beyond just our own discipline. Because in
Yeah.
the safety industry, we are really, really bad. Is that if we have a new problem, we circle the wagons and we look in. We call on other safety experts. We don't think about, maybe we should find out what they're doing in medicine, or maybe we should find out what they're doing over in other disciplines. So this idea of cognitive complexity is this term transdisciplinary, which is look at what we can learn from other industries and what they've done. So what we're trying to say is let's look at anthropology, ethnography, humans as storytellers. Let's also look,
Yeah.
what are we learning in cognitive neuroscience about the brain? Oh my God, the brain is not an information processing machine that can store and retrieve information. The brain is actually designed to recognize patterns. Then we go like, oh my God, when we collect stories, we find out that they create patterns. And then these patterns, that's how they show up, like this. So all of a sudden we're going like, now let's bring in some IT, that data visualization software tools, our language and all this sort of stuff, and say, can we actually produce maps that show you what your culture looks like? And the answer is, yes, we can. We can do that now. And if we have these sort of maps of what your culture looks like, then we can start doing things like that. We can start saying, instead of a idealistic future state strategy of this is where we want to go, we'll take that one step at a time and move to what we call the adjacent possibles. And that's
Gary, are those the dots, or those are the narratives? Are they
the
individual
dot.
narratives?
Yes, that's the thing. So this is the map, because it's the whole idea, how often as with facilitators, we talk about going on the journey. Well, I learned in Boy Scouts, you can't go on a journey unless you got a compass and a map. So what map are you using? Are you just blindly walking anywhere? Well, why don't we create a map for ourselves? I tell you, it's a really good map. A map that's actually generated by the stories that your people are telling each other every day. How useful is that? How cool is that? And they're actually, from the analysis, are showing where they can move very easily towards something, because we don't want to make it difficult. And that's what Stuart Kaufman called the adjacent possibles. Go there. So when I talk about this one, I say, okay, we don't like the red area or or the brown area. We like the green area because we're getting the job done. You know what? We're doing within the rules that we got. How are we going to get there? Well, you can't take a straight line, idealistically shoot there, because you're gonna run into issues. We gotta take that, one step at a time, going to adjacent possible. You go there, then another adjacent possible may or may not open up, then we go there. So it's kind of a zigzaggy sort of way to get to that green spot. So this is, I think, what we need to do as complex facilitators is help people, clients, or whatever, communities have their own map, and then just help them plot their way through.
The issue, for instance, in a major flood event, let's say, for example, in so many parts of the world, what's happening now with the climate issues, if climate events, is there's so many unknowns. I mean, in other words, to gather narratives, maybe after the event, but before the event, people are like, we don't really want to invest in these, whether it's risk mitigation or there's just a failure of imagination, as was said about Katrina. Nobody could imagine what would be possible. So it's difficult in that instance. I don't know, people in an event, people move to a desire to get away from the complex. And get into a more command and control structure.
It's interesting because that's where we had that conversation about looking for weak signals, looking for the stories where the employees are telling each other, maybe they try to tell management, management isn't listening. I think I got a bad feeling about this. Or after an accident occurs, I wish they had talked to me. I would have told them this was going to happen. So that, a lot of people, because if you don't gather these voices and stories, you are kind of like going through all emotions without a map. You have no idea these are going to take place. Now, having produced that map and, as we call weak signals of pending thing, you're going to fall into chaos if you don't. Well, that's true, but, we've got other priorities that we have to take care of. So they are making a decision, and the best, all that we can do as facilitators say is, okay, you are making a decision to say you can accept the risk if something happens, and if it happens, it's going to be disastrous because you've got to do some other things. That's okay, but you are betting the company against this, and it may be a good bet because you're right, maybe nothing ever comes. You can do enough small things that keep you away from that boundary between order and chaos. But even if you want to do that, are you monitoring? How close are you to the edge of chaos? Do you know where you are from an operating point of view? So where everything is in the order system still, it's under command and control. You just need more feedback from your workers. And when I say workers, it's just not the frontline workers. It's also the crew leaders, it's supervisors, it's management, it's the VPs. They all have.
Well, and the VPs, it's the ability of the VPs to listen to the front line. This week, there's the story that I was reading about, and I don't have his name at my my brain, but it was written up. He died in the 9/11, the falling of the towers. But the thing about him was that there was a plane, and I can't remember if it ran into the Empire State Building or something early on, decades before 9/11, I think in the 90s, maybe a decade before. And he was he had his whole company in one of the towers. And he said, there should be a plan, because if that were to ever happen to us, what would we do? So he instituted an evacuation plan for his company. And I think, I don't remember how many hundreds of employees, but he would make them do this whole evacuation plan. And when 9/11 happened, they went right to it.
Wow.
And he's the only one that died out of the whole company because he kept going back in to make sure that everybody was gone.
Wow.
And it was a leader being able to not just think, but to respond. And the same week, I'm talking to another person who's talking about the Grinnell Tower fires in the UK and how there's a tower and everybody was told, don't ever leave. I guess it's a UK law.
Yeah.
Don't leave your apartment until
That's
you're
right.
given instructions. And so
Right.
they all stayed in their apartments, and the fire commander, and they're arguing. We need to tell them to get out, and other people say no, and they lost so many lives.
Yeah.
So there is like that weak signal is it could come from anywhere. It could come from, I don't know about the Grinnell. That'd be a great thing to explore that incident in this, with this idea.
I've actually
of,
done a Meet the Author on the Grenfell Tower.
Did you?
Yes, yeah, I did that with let me just look under that. Yeah, where
I would
she
love to
wrote
read
a
that.
she wrote a book because she lived in the building.
Oh, that's good.
Grenfell, yeah, Grenfell Tower fire. Yeah. So the Grenfell, yeah, her name is Jill Kernick. And she wrote a book called Catastrophe and Systematic Change. So I actually featured here on one of my shows, and we talked about it because her issue is with the blunt end. Let me just show you what I mean by blunt end as well, because I got to happen to have another slide of that. This is what we mean by the blunt end. So what we got, actually got a better picture. This is the blunt end. So the blunt end is where all the regulators are, the politicians, and all that they're concerned about is reputation, making sure, see everything as a problem to be fixed. And all the people at the sharp end are like the workers, like the firefighters, the number of firefighters that died as well. They're worried about the sharp end. And what really burned Jill's, and she's been tracking this on LinkedIn quite a bit, because they're still going through inquiries and everything else. Why did the supplier provide on the external cladding materials?
Cladding, yeah.
So, and everybody is trying to avoid blame on this whole thing. She was trying to, and we talked about that, move the whole discussion. It's not about blame. Get out of there. If you look at blame, you will never solve it because blame solves nothing. We got to look at the systemic conditions that set this whole situation up. Because the Grenfell Tower is one of many towers that have this cladding. What are we doing about those other ones?
The other towers.
Have another one come, right? So again, we're in that whole area of weak signal detection. And you're right. I think we're good enough. We can detect the weak signals. But how do you get people to take the interest to do something about them? And the thing that we also say too is, I love this story about the fellow practicing evacuation. The challenge that we've got is that how do you practice for things and practice for crisis? And a lot of people do like emergency preparedness, because you never really know when a crisis happens if they're going to work or not. And you can't spend your whole, working hours, all your hours practicing crisis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's the whole problem with the command and control. Is that it sometimes relies too much on this is, but it didn't work in the Grenfell Tower. So
So all you can do is, so this whole thing about let's create a whole bunch of scenarios. No. It's not about the scenarios because you don't know if it's going to happen. It's about, do you have a process, a really good process that we can use if we fall into chaos that can help you get out of it. So this is why Dave created with the European Union that European Union Field Guide. Yeah, it's all about how do you as a government, a country, handle crises. you don't know what crisis you're going to get, but at least put a process in place and how you can work your way out of it.
Well, that's probably a good resource for our workshop.
Well, yeah, so I'm throwing these things out to you because I don't know what will happen when you do prep and how many of the other facilitators are aware of some of the things that are out there.
I think it's going to be small
Okay.
number. So
Right.
that's why the first part, you know, Gary's intro is just using a very simple model of the cat. And my part, we've shifted a little bit. We're going to not use murals so much, but except for a slide to illustrate various roles that might come together, the volunteers that might come together for the to organize what needs to happen in the community. And the whole purpose of the workshop really is to talk about the facilitator method.
Yeah.
So using this idea that the facilitator has to help the group sort
Yes.
through and know how to sort of organize their ideas.
Yeah, and then that's where you can also talk about what's the difference between traditional facilitating, which we all kind of grew up and learned and did well, and complex facilitation.
Well,
Like-
you could have to, you can inform me on that, because all I know is that there's a facilitator that's prepared and a facilitator that thinks it's just a conversation that you go in and have. So it's,
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you mean by traditional versus complex?
I've got stuff in that as well. Slides. It's not just my stuff. Let me just this is again, you know, I think I'm rather fortunate in that I'm part of a group that knows a lot more than me. Okay, let's see, process, traditional. So let me just, I'm just going to, oh, you know what? I think I've got this in my brain. I can just send this to you. Let me just see if I can do that.
Eduardo, I told Gary he looks like he belongs in a Star Trek movie with his sweater, his background.
Yes, I do. So let me let me send this to you. This is again, this is why I do like having the brain, my public brain. I can share stuff with you quickly. So let me pull this up. This is what traditional facilitation is about. Okay, on the chat screen. And then this is, and then the next one, if you can go on there, you can click over to complex facilitation. And you
Oh,
can
I see.
the difference.
All right. I'll explore that. I got to put that in my notes here. Yeah.
So, and then, so people first ask, well, what are the different methods and tools? Well, and that's what we've been, you know, Dave and the Kinevin community, we've been working on different ways of complex facilitation. And the one that he's really big into is using hexi kits, which I don't know if I've talked to you about yet.
No, that's a new term.
Yeah. So hexi kits is, again, this is a fun one, and I like it because it fits in with a lot of the stuff I've been doing, and so this idea of hexi kits goes back to Dave's IBM days, back into the turn of the century, or 1990s, 2000, when he was still at when he was still at IBM. He started doing hexi kits, and he's been kind of had that idea in the back of his mind for years and years and years, and only now has he got enough help in the Kinevin Center with a group of people that are helping him develop these tools. So now the hexi kit idea fits in with complex facilitation because the hexi kit says this is a multi discipline sort of an approach, multi-method. So if you go into a company and they say, oh, we've been using astrology, to plot our future state. You don't go like, what a bunch of crap, which you may do in facilitation, in traditional. We say in complex facilitation, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so tell me, what did you learn from your using astrology? Well, he's a Libra, and this is a Capricorn, so this is how they, like, okay. So you start with where they always are, then you kind of go like, well, there's some other tools that we can also use. Let's talk about some of those tools. How are these people when they interact with each other in relationships? How does a Libra interact with the Pisces in your organization, if that's your language? Tell you what, let's go and collect some stories and let's find out. And let's build, using this other tool called SenseMaker, a narrative landscape. And then again, we're not poo-pooing or dismissing all their investment in astrology. We're just saying, there's a different way of looking at things, and we can help them move away from astrology and go like, oh, I think this is a better way to look at it, our company, as opposed to walking around with labels saying, I'm a Pisces, I'm a Capricorn. You don't have to do that. There's different ways you look at that. And if you wanted to, we could go further and we can actually start creating stereotypes in your organization if you want. You don't have to, but there's different ways of looking at things. So that's the hexakit idea of looking at different ways. And what we're doing is that we're building the process, what you got to do in the complex system. Not this is the end result, with a time-based sort of thing. We're building a process that you can kind of like build your own map. You do have some sort of a vision, probably where you want to go, and that's why you did astrology. That's probably okay. Let's see how we can kind of get there, but we'll use narrative maps, maybe. That's a different way of doing things. So,
Yeah, much better. This is the basis of constructivism, right?
yeah.
You're adding knowledge, not restraining someone's knowledge.
Yeah. And we're asking people, okay, in some cases, be a chef, not a recipe follower as well, right? Because some people, I don't know, I'm just, again, fictitious thing, but, well, I happen to be a Libra. So therefore, I'm a balanced person, therefore, my rules that say as a Libra, I've got to see both sides of the story. And, I will wear, kind of judge's robes and when I dress, because that's the role I play. Well, can we get away from that? How can we get away from it? If I'm going to get away from it, move away to, where am I moving towards? What sort of different roles can we move towards? So we help them kind of look at different ways in the organization here. So that's what complex.
I like that.
Yeah. Complex.
I like that, the idea that there has to be a sense of where the idea is going or where the group is going, however that's framed, that it's hard to let go until you have something else to reach for.
Yeah. Why? Because we do like order. It's stable. It's predictable.
Yeah.
I'm a Libra. You're a Capricorn. Hey, aren't we happy? I don't know. Let's go and collect some stories and find out if we're happier. Or maybe happiness is not something we really want in our organization. I don't know. Right? So let's find out together, right? And that's how we always say as complex facilitators, if I don't know, let's go find out together.
Yeah. I have another meeting at 1. I don't know how you guys are today.
Well, I look forward to your invite. Once I get that, I'll ask Trish, can we move our and is that a 1 hour sort of session? How long is it going to be?
Actually, it's an hour and a half.
An hour and a half? Okay. Yeah.
With a debriefing, because hosted by facilitators. I mean, the whole event is facilitators. And so we critique the facilitation after.
Cool. All right. It's always fun to get into. I don't know how noisy I'm going to be, like with you guys. I just can't.
Yeah, that's
It's
what
up
we're
to
worried
you.
about. But
Yeah, I may just sit back here and just observe. I think I'll go to the balcony and watch you guys on the stage.
yeah, well, I think it's extremely helpful. You're going to have to let Eduardo and I stumble a little bit because we're going to err on being, right there on the ground with the others. But if questions come up, I mean, I'm going to turn them over to you. That if Eduardo doesn't want to tackle it, but let us try to tackle it, and we'll leave space
Yeah.
for you. I mean, there'd be plenty of time, but we want to. This is really an experiment, so you have to
Sure.
let us experiment.
Exactly. So this is a Zoom meeting, right?
I haven't figured that out yet. The link,
Oh, okay.
Eduardo, do you know what the link goes to?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, they have that platform.
Mhm.
I always forget the name, but they have a specific platform for all the events, right? All the
Okay.
festival, and
Yeah.
you can meet there and
Mhm.
meet other persons and participate in the meetings.
Yeah.
And they have specific places. It's like a huge environment and where you have specific places.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And
Always
yeah,
interested in different ways of
yeah,
collaborating. So I was only asking if it's a Zoom because if I wanted to direct message you, how would I do that?
oh,
Maybe
you know
we
what,
need to
Gary?
maybe we need to do that on Telegram. Just like, oh, Nancy, you
Yeah,
mentioned this. And
yeah,
Eduardo, are you
yeah,
on Telegram as well? Right? Did we get you connected in?
yeah.
Okay.
that's a
I
good
think I have an
idea.
account.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can share with you. Yeah,
Yeah. So we should connect in just so the three of us kind of like in the background can even just say,
great, great,
or I may want to ask
great.
you, should I mention this or wait for
Yeah,
you? No,
Mhm.
and then we can talk about so we can cue
Yeah.
each other up or something.
Yeah.
great. I think we could also maintain that group to discuss about complexity. I don't know if you
Yeah,
agree.
Nancy will be using Telegram for that as well. If I come across something that's pretty good, I like Telegram's good. And the reason why I like Telegram is
Mhm.
I get instant notification where I'm kind of slow on my emails and I may miss something, but Telegram I find to be quite useful. So do the same thing. So
Good.
Eduardo, I just want to check that. Are you on? Have I got you on? Let me just check Telegram.
No,
We should before we leave just make sure that we got you up and running.
let me. I don't know if I have Telegram in my cell phone.
Yeah.
Let me check it here.
Yeah.
I will do the following. I will send you my Telegram link or idea, whatever, by email, right?
What are
And we
you?
can share the same
What
space.
what's your Telegram, Eduardo? Is it E?
Yeah, yeah. I will tell. I don't know I don't know it's right now, but I have to check it. I don't use it very often, right? So I
Okay.
have to check check the
Let me see.
details,
Maybe I can search.
and I can send you by mail.
Yeah. 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 Just yeah, you can just send it and just invite us, and then we can connect on.
Great, great.
Okay. Gary, if maybe we should go ahead and set up our next time if you'd like, just to get together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Um,
So you guys tell me what works for you. And I'll start.
Maybe
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4 weeks is the 8th of July.
Okay.
look at for July. Oh, that's good for me. How about you,
Now,
Eduardo? Good for you?
Eduardo, is that
Okay,
the best
okay.
time for you?
Well, I would prefer 2 p.m. for me, 1 hour ahead, if you
Okay.
could.
That would be 1 o'clock for me and 10 for you, Gary.
Okay. 10 a.m.
Hmm.
So 10 a.m. is 2 p.m. for you? Eduardo?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay, so let me just, I've got that there, so let me just save it and then, did you get the email? I just posted it.
Let me check it. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
that's
there you go.
here.
We're in.
Great.
Okay. Okay, what I'll do is, I did record this thing. I'll just take I'll just produce a quick YouTube on this. Because I thought maybe there's some useful chat we had, plus the fact I showed slides. You don't get that in
Yeah.
notes. Okay, so let me do that. I can do that right now.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, so good.
It was really good to see you guys.
Yeah,
And I appreciate, Gary, you sharing with us all that you are working on. It's fascinating, really is.
good.
That was a rich moment.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Okay, so we'll see
Right.
you in July then.
Okay,
Take care.
thanks. Or we'll see you
Thank
this
you, Gary.
Friday if you're able to make it.
Oh, this Friday. I'm
So,
sorry. Sorry. I
Yeah.
Okay.
no, I definitely want to go. Just as you say, even if I sit in the balcony and just watch. So
I'll send it to you as soon as we get off here. So,
okay,
okay.
sounds good.
All
Okay,
right. See you.
take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.